There is something strange about people who have lived through what they were never supposed to survive. They do not always become louder. They do not always become colder. And they do not always fall apart in the way people expect. Sometimes they become precise, not precise in a dramatic way. Not the kind of sharpness that needs to win every argument or prove itself in every room, but the kind that notices, the kind that walks into a place and immediately feels what is off before anyone says a word. They can sense the tension between two people who are smiling. They can hear the sadness hiding underneath someone's joke. They can tell when confidence is being performed, when kindness has an edge, when silence is not peaceful but loaded. And most people call this intuition. They call it being observant. They call it having strong instincts. But there is a deeper question underneath all of that. Where did your mind learn to pay such close attention? This is where traumatic intelligence begins. It is not the same as ordinary intelligence. It is not about test scores, clever answers, or how fast you can solve a problem on paper. Traumatic intelligence is the kind of awareness some people develop when they grow up around emotional pressure, unpredictability, instability, or situations where reading the room was not optional. At some point, your brain may have learned that safety depended on noticing things early. A change in tone, a slammed door, a face becoming too quiet, a mood shifting before the words arrived. Over time, that scanning can become automatic. You stop choosing it. It simply runs in the background, collecting information other people miss. Here are the first signs that your mind may have been shaped this way. Sign 1. You read the room before anyone says a word. Other people enter a room and see furniture, faces, and conversation. You enter and feel the emotional weather. You notice who is uncomfortable, who is trying too hard to seem relaxed, who has power in the room, and who is pretending not to be affected. You may not even know how you know, you just do. This is not because you are suspicious by nature. It may be because your nervous system learned early that small signals mattered. When the environment could change quickly, your mind became trained to detect shifts before they became obvious. The cost is that you are rarely fully off. The gift is that you often understand the room before the room understands itself. Sign 2. You notice emotional changes before people explain them. Someone says they are fine, but their voice is flatter than usual. Someone laughs, but their eyes do not move with it. Someone gives you a compliment, but there is something hidden inside the timing. Most people hear the sentence. You hear the gap between the sentence and the truth. This can make you feel alone, because you often notice what others are not ready to admit, even to themselves. But it is also one of the clearest signs of traumatic intelligence. Your mind learned to read what was not spoken, because once, what was not spoken mattered most. Sign 3. Chaos makes you focused, but peace makes you uneasy. This is one of the strangest signs of traumatic intelligence. When other people panic, something in you can become quiet. A crisis happens. A voice gets raised. A room starts falling apart. And instead of collapsing, your mind begins to organize. You notice what needs to happen first. You see who is losing control. You know which detail matters, and which one is only noise. People may look at you and think you are calm by nature. But sometimes, that calm is not peace. Sometimes, it is familiarity. Your nervous system has been here before. It knows the shape of tension. It knows how fast a mood can turn. It knows that if you freeze for too long, something may get worse. So, before anyone else knows what to do, something in you is already moving toward the problem. Your attention narrows. Your body steadies. Your mind starts arranging the chaos into steps. The strange part is that, when life finally becomes calm, you may feel more uncomfortable than you did in the chaos. Silence can feel suspicious. Rest can feel unsafe. A quiet day can feel like waiting for something to happen. You are not addicted to drama. Your body may simply have learned that calm was never permanent. Sign 4. You hear what people mean, not just what they say. Someone says, "I'm fine." But you hear the pressure behind the word fine. Someone says, "Do whatever you want." But you hear the punishment hidden under the permission. Someone says, "I'm happy for you." But something in the timing does not land cleanly. Most people listen to language. You listen to emotional truth. And this can make ordinary conversations exhausting, because you are not only processing words, you are listening to the pause before the answer, the way their eyes move away for half a second, the breath they take before saying something that sounds almost true. This is why people may call you intense, or overthinking, or too analytical. But what they call overthinking may be a mind that learned very early that words could not always be trusted. The cost is that you cannot easily unsee things. The gift is that you often understand what is happening beneath the surface. Sign 5. You became self-reliant before you were ready. You learned how to handle things quietly. You learned how to solve problems before asking for help. You learned how to act fine because needing too much felt dangerous, disappointing, or useless. From the outside, this can look like strength. And it is strength. But it may also be a strength that was built too early. A child is not supposed to become their own safety system. A child is not supposed to become their own emotional backup plan. But some people do. And later, they become adults who are capable, prepared, and strangely hard to rescue. Not because they do not need anyone, because needing people once taught them too much. If one of these first 5 signs already feels uncomfortably familiar, comment the number that describes you most. I want to know which one made you pause. Sign 6. You feel emotional energy like physical weight. Some people walk into a tense room and notice nothing. You walk in, and your body reacts before your mind has language for it. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing changes. Something in your chest becomes careful. It is not only that you see emotion, you absorb the atmosphere around it. A small conflict can stay in your body for hours. A normal conversation can leave you drained because you were not only hearing words, you were carrying the emotional pressure underneath them. This is one of the costs of traumatic intelligence. Your sensitivity is not random. It may come from a nervous system that learned to stay tuned to people around you because another person's mood once had power. The gift is that you understand pain without needing it explained. The cost is that you sometimes feel what was never yours to carry. Sign 7. You trust patterns more than promises. Anyone can say the right words once. Anyone can sound sincere for a moment. But you do not relax because someone makes a promise. You watch what happens after the promise. You notice consistency. You notice follow-through. You notice whether their tone changes when they do not get what they want. To some people, this looks guarded, cold, difficult to reach. But you are not refusing connection. You are checking whether connection is safe. Somewhere along the way, your mind learned that words could be beautiful and still unreliable. So now, you believe behavior more than performance. You do not trust quickly. But when you do trust, it means something. Because by then, the person has survived your pattern recognition. Sign 8. You can predict endings from small beginnings. You meet someone, and something in you feels the direction of the story. You may not know what will happen, but you can feel the direction of it, the way a storm can be sensed before the sky changes. You hear how someone talks about others, and you know how they may talk about you later. You watch 2 people begin a relationship and feel the crack before they can name it. You sit in a meeting and sense which idea will fail, not because you are negative, but because the weakness is visible. People may call this overthinking, but often it is pattern memory. Your mind has collected thousands of small beginnings. You remember the voice that changed before the truth came out, the question someone stepped around instead of answering, the confidence that felt too polished to be real, the promise that arrived too quickly, as if speed could make it trustworthy. And now, when something familiar appears, your brain does not wait for the ending. It recognizes the road. That is the loneliness of seeing too much. Sometimes you are not afraid because you imagine the worst. You are tired because you have watched the pattern complete itself before. Sign 9. Surface-level living feels unbearable. There are people who can move through life on autopilot. They wake up, go through the day, answer the messages, laugh at the right moments, fill the quiet with noise, and fall asleep without asking whether any of it meant something. And for them, maybe that is enough. But for you, something starts to collapse when life becomes too shallow for too long. You can laugh with people and still feel far away. You can sit in a room where everyone is talking and feel like no one is saying anything. You can do what looks normal from the outside and still feel a quiet emptiness growing underneath it. This does not mean you are dramatic. It does not mean you are difficult to satisfy. It may mean your mind has learned to look for meaning because it has already seen what happens when life is reduced to survival. When you have spent years reading danger, emotion, silence, disappointment, and hidden motives, shallow living can feel almost impossible. Your mind keeps asking for something real, a conversation with weight, a purpose that feels honest, a life that does not require you to abandon yourself just to look functional. That hunger for meaning is not weakness. It is one of the deepest signs that your intelligence is awake. Sign 10. You turn pain into understanding. Some people go through pain and become harder. They start building walls around every soft place in them. They look at the world through suspicion before they look at it through understanding. But something different can happen inside traumatic intelligence. You may become more careful with people because you know what carelessness can do. You may hear someone's silence and understand there is a story underneath it. You may notice someone pulling away and sense fear before you see rejection. You do not only see behavior, you look for the wound beneath it. And sometimes, that makes you too forgiving. You explain people who never explain themselves. You understand people who still hurt you. You see the pain behind the weapon, even when the weapon is pointed at you. That is the cost. But the gift is real. You can sit with another person's darkness without rushing to fix it. You can recognize suffering before it becomes a performance. You can offer presence in places where other people only offer advice. The pain did not make you better than anyone, but it may have made you deeper. Not because suffering is beautiful, but because your mind learned to turn what hurt you into a way of seeing. Sign 11. You are awake to things other people can ignore. This may be the final sign of traumatic intelligence. You cannot easily move through life half asleep. You notice what is being avoided. You notice when people are performing happiness. You notice when a room is full of noise, but almost no truth. And once your mind has learned to see beneath the surface, it becomes very hard to live only on the surface. That is why meaningless work can drain you more than difficult work. That is why shallow conversations can leave you feeling strangely empty. That is why a life that looks successful from the outside can still feel unbearable if it has no honesty inside it. You are not difficult because you need meaning. You are not broken because you cannot pretend forever. Your mind may simply be awake to things other people are still allowed to ignore. And this is where all 11 signs come together. The person who cannot fully relax may be called anxious. The person who reads people too quickly may be called suspicious. The person who trusts slowly may be called cold. The person who feels deeply may be called too sensitive. The person who needs meaning may be called impossible to satisfy. But sometimes these are not separate flaws. Sometimes they are traces of a mind that had to adapt early. A mind that learned to listen before speaking, to notice before trusting, to prepare before asking, to understand before being understood. That does not mean the pain was good. It does not mean the cost was small. And it does not mean you should be grateful for what hurt you. But it does mean you are not only damaged by what you survived, you may also be carrying a rare form of awareness that can become wisdom if you learn how to use it with intention. Traumatic intelligence is not something to glorify. It is something to understand. Because once you understand it, you can stop letting it control you. You can turn scanning into discernment, sensitivity into compassion, self-reliance into strength that still knows how to receive help, and pain into perception. If this video gave a name to something you have carried for years, comment which sign stayed with you the most. Was it reading people, staying calm in chaos, trusting slowly, or needing meaning? Subscribe to Awaken Psychology for more videos about mental strength, hidden psychology, self-awareness, and the parts of your mind that are waiting to be awakened.